What's up, Cardfighters? Ryan here from Vanguard Central, bringing you guys a brand new Genesis Stride deck profile. It's actually from the new latest set, Soul Strike Against the Supreme, GBT04, which actually just came out today, and we were lucky enough to get our hands on a few boxes and make a few decks for you guys. So let's go ahead and get started with our grade 3s. We got 4 copies of Mythic Beast Fenrir, or Mythic Beast Fenrir, I'm sorry. And Fenrir is going to be the main boss of this deck aside from our G-Zone, just considering the fact that he is the Stride Break card for this deck. For Genesis, I mean. And so you get a consistent Soul Charge 3, and also his second ability for that skill is really good. Given the fact that you can Soul Blast cards and counterblast 1 to call them back to rearguard is really good because you never have to call hands from your, call cards from your hand. And also sets up for maybe fourth attacks, possible fourth attacks, because some cards, they do Soul Blast on attack. And also his Generation Break skill is very good. Comes in handy late game if you know your opponent doesn't have a lot of zeros in hand, because he does gain 1 critical and the glory skill your opponent can guard with 1s or higher. So as long as he has something behind them pumping him up at least over 21k, it's a pretty good pressure card. And then next we got 4 copies of Sunlight Goddess Yatagarasu. Yatagarasu is probably the best backup Vanguard with Fenrir, only because of the fact that you can consistently soul charge and selectively soul charge what you want by guarding against her, because every time you guard you can send that card into the soul, but only 1 card, so Quintet Walls don't really work with her, but we don't want Quintwits, so that's not a problem. But it's really her Lemon Break 4 that does come in handy also, considering the fact that you can Soul Blast 9 while having units that get powered up from Soul Blast. You can make some pretty high numbers, and you also draw 2 cards and stand 2, so it's kind of like a mini Lambros if you combo it well enough with the grade 2 and grade 1 that we are running. And I'll go ahead and get to that in a sec. And for our grade 2s, we're running 4 copies of Twilight Regalia Hesperus. Hesperus is really good in this deck considering that she can give a lot of pressure to your Vanguard. So let's say for a fact if you Soul Blast 1, 2, even 3 of her, that's killing 3 units if your Vanguard hits. And that's ridiculous because early in the game, say you have 2 of them in the soul, or you accidentally Soul Charge 2 with Fenrir and you rode 1, that's 3 in there. If you Soul Blast 3 of them with Doom Brace and Counterblast 1, call another one, you get another attacker. They're most likely not going to guard it if they don't have a PG, and you field wipe them right away. It's probably one of the best grade 2s that you can throw in this deck. And next we got 4 copies of Mythic Snake Jormungand. Jormungand is super good in this deck because he is a Generation Break. He gets plus 1k for every card that's Soul Blasted. So like on a Yatagarasu turn, that's plus 9k. On a Vanargandr turn, that's plus 6. On Doom Brace, that's plus 8k, because Doom Brace also gives an additional 5. Like, he's a very strong card as long as he's on the field, and it's really easy to get him on the field considering Fenrir is a card, and also our starter. And then next we got 3 copies of Unappeasable Biter Gleipnir. Gleipnir is the Amber clone for Genesis, so when it's when it's boosted, you counterblast 1, Soul Charge 3 for sure guaranteed, and if you Soul Blasted during that turn, you can draw a card. So it does provide a little bit of Soul Charge power if you have to sit on Yatagarasu. So that's why we run it at 3. 4 is a little too much because it's kind of counterblast heavy. We want to max out Hesperus and also Jormungand. And then the draw power does come in handy. Moving on to our grade 1s, we got 4 copies of Goddess of Decline Hell. Hell is our unflipping perfect guard. We kind of have a counterblast heavy deck considering that you use Gleipnir and also call a lot with Fenrir. The ability to unflip is really good in this deck. And next we got 4 copies of Mythic Beast Skull. Skull is going to be our stride fodder for Genesis. Like I said, this is a stride oriented deck, so you want to stride as much as you can, so 4 is really good. And then next we got 4 copies of Mythic Beast Hadi. Hadi is the grade 1 version of Jormungand, so plus 1k for every Soul Blast. So sitting behind a Fenrir or even another Jormungand is really good because say you Soul Blast 3 on his attack, that's an instant 21k column, so it forces out a lot of 10k because they won't be able to guard with the plus 1 or higher. And also makes some pretty huge numbers with Vanargandr plays and also Yatagarasu, so it's going to be hitting for huge. And we got 2 copies of Witch of Frogs Melissa. Melissa is just the generic, when she's Soul Blasted, you can counterblast 1 and draw her, because it helps, say you have a Fenrir skill, you can go ahead and counterblast 1 for this Fenrir to call the front row, and then use Melissa to call herself out, and you get a full column for free, or essentially for free. Moving on to our triggers, we're running 9 criticals, 4 of them being Kakudahime, just because The Soul Charge +3 is nice, makes some nice numbers. And 3 is probably the best card for Genesis right now, Dreaming Dragon. It sends the entire drop zone back to the deck, so your ability of decking out is not possible if you play the deck right. I'm running it only at 3 because I don't really use it for the stand trigger. I just use it for its effect. I play this deck very aggressively, so that's why I'm running the 9 crit. And it's really easy because Dreaming Dragon, with the fact that you soul charge a lot in this deck, he's probably going to end up in the soul at one point. So you can use the Fenrir's second ability to go ahead and call him out for free at the end of your turn really late in the game. Say you have like 10 cards left. Yeah, you can send your entire drop zone back, and that comes in really handy. And then 4 heals, of course. And for our starter, running Fetter of Leather, Lading, or Fetter. Ugh, I'm fob, sorry. So Fetter of Leather, Lading, is probably the best starter for Genesis as of right now, considering you can call anything that gets soul blasted but itself from the soul when it gets soul blasted. You can call it to rearguard. So on any turn with Fenrir, if you have a chance of putting him in the soul, you can call out either a full column or 2 more attackers. So that's really good. And then also another thing, or 2 more attackers, sorry. And another thing is that if you want to keep recycling him, you can just use Fenrir's skill to keep calling Lading back out. And then you can use Lading's own skill to call something else. So you get a nice, consistent way of using Lighting, but it does take a lot of counterblast, so that's why we're running the unflipping PGs. Moving on to our G zone, we got 3 copies of Great Angel Doombrace. Doombrace is very good in this deck, considering the fact that first turn stride, you're going to have your grade 1 and your grade 2, and then also you stride, you go into Doombrace first, you soul charge 3 for Fenrir, you're going to have 5 in the soul, and you can use his skill to soul blast 3 plus 5k to 2 rear guards, and if you have 2 or less in the soul, you're soul charge 3 again. So it makes his cost essentially free, and you get 5 in the soul at the end of your turn, so you set up really nice for Vanargandr. And then early game, late game, this guy's super good just because he makes your lanes even bigger, and especially if you have a Hadi or Jormungand there, they're going to be even bigger numbers. Then we got 1 copy of Snow Element Blizza. Blizza's there just for the last game finisher. And also, if you know your opponent doesn't have a lot of zeros in hand early game, or they have the G assist, you can go Blizza right away and then use Fenrir's Generation Break to just finish them off with the extra crit. Because they're probably not going to be able to guard it knowing they don't have any zeros. So you like to take advantage of that. So that's why we run the Blizza. Then we run 4 copies of Mythical Destroyer Beast Vanargandr. Vanargandr is probably one of the most broken strides ever made for Vanguard, considering the fact that you can manipulate your drive checks after your opponent guards. So let's say they don't have a PG, they're pretty much screwed because it's either they no guard it, giving you the ability to stack triple crit on top of your deck, and then if not that, you force out the PG and you kind of just distribute, okay, crit to my rear, crit to my rear. You're going to guard the rest? I don't think so, especially since it's Soul Blast 6. And think about having Jormungand on the field as well as your Hadi. Your columns are going to be pretty huge. And that's pretty much it on the deck profile, guys. Let us know what you guys think. Like our videos, comment below if you have any questions or concerns, and subscribe if you guys want to see some more. Vanguard Central, out.